Klaper has agreed to rearrange his schedule a little bit. It's a fantastic talk that I've heard more than once, and we've shown to our club in South Carolina, so I know you'll be pleased. You will get a handout in your room announcing what the change in the program will be, but this talk that Dr. Klaper's giving now was originally scheduled, I believe, for Wednesday afternoon. It's the salt, sugar, and oil, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It was scheduled for 4:30 here in the theater on Wednesday. Let's get started. Dr. Michael Klaper is a graduate of the University of Illinois College of Medicine in Chicago and has practiced acute medical care in medicine in Hawaii, Canada, California, Florida, and New Zealand to improve the health of his patients as well as his own and to minimize suffering of sentient beings. Dr. Klaper adopted a plant-based diet in 1981. A longtime radio host and a pilot, Dr. Klaper has served as nutrition advisor to NASA's programs for the space colonists on the Moon and Mars, and on the nutrition task force of the American Medical Students Association. He has authored numerous articles on plant-based nutrition and is authoring now a book on using plant-based medicine to arrest and reverse disease. Dr. Klaper has practiced nutritionally based medicine for 8 years at True North Health Center in Santa Rosa, California, and his talent for presenting complex medical topics in a simple, enjoyable format has made him a sought-after speaker at conferences worldwide. Be sure to pick up the DVDs in the bookstore in the Silver Lounge. We have this talk, Salt, Sugar, and Oil, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and Sense and Sensibility, and others. And the talks that are recorded here will also be for sale in the bookstore a day or two later, as well as on the website. So without further ado, it is my honor and joy to introduce to you Dr. Michael Klaper.
Thank you very much, and anyone who is very upset and dismayed that I am not Dr. Colin Campbell, I will not be offended if you go out and enjoy the sunshine. It's understandable. We'll be here after our first stop. Gets to fly into some exotic airport, lucky fellow. So, talk that is lifted out from later in the week here that we're going to be talking now has to do with salt, sugar, and oil. These are America's three favorite flavorings. Apologies to any Australians, Canadians, Brits, anyone eating a Western diet. We all seem to love the salt, sugar, and oil. They are the king of the condiments in the West. So let's start talking about salt specifically. What is it? We'll talk about each of these, what they are, what they do in your body, and what's wrong from eating too much of them. Salt, not to bring back bad memories from high school chemistry class, but it's made up of an atom of sodium and an atom of chloride, and because sodium is positively charged and the chloride is negatively charged, the two opposites attract. And that's what holds the crystal of salt together, is all the magnetic attractions between the positive sodium and the negative chloride. Holds the crystal of salt together very well, but if you put it in water, these charges are neutralized and the crystal falls apart, and that's why salt melts in water. And once you do that, once you separate the sodium from the chloride, it's the sodium atoms that cause the most mischief in the body. Where it's found, all living tissues, plants and animals, certainly have salt, sodium chloride in their tissues. We add to the table, everyone's familiar with that, but by far the major contribution of sodium/salt to the Western diet comes in processed foods, especially restaurant meals. What's salt good for? Well, we need it to live. Life, if you believe in evolution at all, evolved in the ocean. And when we left the ocean to come up onto land, we took the ocean with us. And that salty ocean is still circulating in our bloodstream as the salinity of our sea from all the salt and water because salt water conducts electricity, and we are electrical beings. The cell membranes, and our nerves, our muscles that require electrical activity to fire all depend on sodium and chloride for their electrical activity. So what's the problem with too much salt is the issue, because we sure like those crystals on our tongue. Well, the problem is if you eat a salty meal, if you eat that salty pretzel, the salt's absorbed pretty immediately, and as a result, your blood starts getting saltier and saltier and saltier. Well, what's the problem with that? Well, if our blood gets too salty, we are going to start to pickle from the inside, and it's going to suck water out of our cells, and we will dehydrate and die. We will pickle. And that's literally true. How do you make a pickle? Well, you take a cucumber, and you do what to it? You put it into salty water, and the salt water sucks the nutrient water out of the cells, and it turns into this shriveled old pickle. Well, this is what would happen to your brain or your kidneys or your pancreas or your spleen if the salt concentration gets too high. So the body is very wary of allowing the blood to get too salty. And so when you eat the teriyaki whatever at the Chinese restaurant, or maybe even the veggie sausages with all that salt, your blood gets saltier, and you got to protect your brain from looking like that in a few hours. So how does it happen? Well, you got to lower the concentration of the salt. How does the body do that? It does it by diluting the salt out. What do you mean diluting the salt out? Well, you add water to something to dilute it, and your body adds water to the blood to dilute out the salt. How does it add water to the blood? Two mechanisms. One, you get thirsty. Then you go out to the water cooler and you drink a pint or two of water. Well, that certainly adds water to the bloodstream and dilutes out the salt concentration. But also your kidneys, the master of water balances, they are given a message from the brain. The anti-diuretic hormone goes down to the brain, down to the kidneys, and says, hey kidneys, you know that water you were going to pee out in the urine? We need it to dilute out this salt. Hold on to it. And the kidneys say, aye, aye, sir, and they retain water. And between these two mechanisms, between drinking on the water and retaining the water to the kidneys, the more water in the blood dilutes out the salt concentration, and you live to eat another pretzel. But we dilute the salt out, but we pay a price for that. Normally in your body, you got about 8 pints of blood circulating around your heart and blood vessels. But after a salty meal and then drinking a bunch of water, now you got 9 pints of blood. Now you got 10 pints of blood. Circulating blood volume goes up after eating all this salt and drinking all this water. Well, ask any plumber what happens to the pressure in the piping system if you add more fluid into the pipes. The pressure starts going up, and this extra fluid starts leaking out, and people notice their ankles are swollen and they feel all bloaty, and they get on the scale and they're a pound or two heavier. Water's heavy stuff. A cubic foot of water, 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot, weighs 62 pounds. Water is heavy stuff. But the pressure in the pipes is the most significant issue. There's more water in the circulating system, so that's going to raise the pressure. And also the sodium atoms osmose into the artery walls, and they pull water in with them, and so you get an edema of the artery walls, and these flexible muscular tubes of your arteries become stiff drain pipes. That's not a good thing. They say you're as old as your arteries, and this high pressure, that normally part of the high pressure wave that comes out of the heart with every beat is absorbed, is soaked up by the elasticity of the arteries. But if they're rigid because they're all edematous and full of salt and water, then that pressure wave whistles down the arteries and bangs into some very delicate tissues like the retina of your eye. And this is what we see when we take our ophthalmoscopes and look in the back of the eye, nice healthy retina. But these are tiny, tiny little capillaries and veins that will not stand up under high pressure. And you bang away with a high pressure of 170 over 110, 170 millimeters of mercury, heartbeat after heartbeat after heartbeat, month after month, year after year. These arteries will stiffen and then they break, and that lovely retina turns into one like this with hypertensive retinopathy hemorrhages. Your kidneys, another delicate membrane, the filter membrane in your kidneys, the glomeruli. These are one cell thin, gossamer thin membranes, very delicate, and they clean your blood, they keep you alive. You want to take care of these, but you bang away with high pressure, heartbeat after heartbeat, year after year, and they hemorrhage, and these lovely glomeruli turn into this, and you get hemorrhagic nephritis, and your kidneys turn into scar tissue, and you wind up on the dialysis machine. Blood vessels in the brain can break, you wind up with hemorrhagic strokes. Too much salt certainly has these pressure consequences. But who knew, it turns out that food brings in not only nutrition, it brings in information. Every meal, every mouthful that you eat, molecules in that food are washing within minutes through every cell in your body, where your DNA lies unfolded. And the molecules in whatever you ate wash through your cells, and they play your DNA like a piano. And they turn genes on, they turn genes off. They turn enzymes on, they turn enzymes off. Every meal changes us on a molecular genetic level. The science is called nutrigenomics. I'll be talking about it later in the cruise. Well, sodium turns on genes that keep you from that predispose you to autoimmune diseases, lupus, etc. They turn off inhibitory gene. We'll go into the science behind it. But you want good genes like FOXFP3, and without it, the sodium turns this off, and that allows inflammation to start canniballing through your system. So too much salt, and I'm a recovering saltaholic. It's not a good thing, and it's one of the contributors to the high blood pressure and the autoimmune diseases that we're seeing. So the good, it's for mineral balance. The bad, it can stiffen your arteries. The ugly, it can really set you up for some nasty diseases if you consume too much. Now, all whole natural foods grown out of the ground have some sodium in them. And that's why you don't have to add anymore. It's in the lettuce, it's in the kale, it's in the blueberries. Everything has sodium, very modest amounts. And if you're eating 2,000 calories of whole plant foods, you're going to meet your sodium needs pretty handily. How much do you actually need? You need about 500 to 1,500 milligrams of sodium, but because a good chunk of table salt is the chloride, that turns into 3.75 grams of salt. That's roughly, it's about 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt over the course of all 3 meals. If you stay on the short side of this, you'll be okay, assuming you don't have runaway high blood pressure or heart failure. So that if you take that 3/4 of a teaspoon over 3 meals, it's a pinch. It's 1/8 of a teaspoon on your veggies. And because the crystals of salt are on the surface of the veggie, you get this big salty hit when you bite into the tomato or the whatever you put it on. So you get a big salty flavor benefit without a lot of actual salt. And that's where you should use the salt shaker. People say, oh, we don't have salt shakers anymore. Actually, that's the one place you got control over it. In the Chinese restaurant, in the tomato sauce at the Olive Garden, it's already in there, and you can't do anything about it. You don't even taste it. And it's present in huge amounts. Oh no, what was that about? Okay. Can somebody help me out with excuse me. I upset the electronic goddess this week. Not back there. Okay.
Something happened.
So, a little goes a long way. The one place you want the salt shaker is at the table because that's where you've got some control over it. Just to show you how much salt is in processed foods. If you eat roughly 2,000 calories a day, and your sodium intake should be well south of 2,000, I said 1,500, but even if we give you 2,000, most Americans are cooking along at 5,000. But even at 2,000, well, 2,000 milligrams of salt, of sodium and 2,000 calories a day, there should be 1 milligram of sodium for every calorie. So here's Campbell's tomato soup, a half a cup. I don't know who consumes a half a cup of Campbell's tomato soup, but it has 90 calories. It ought to have 90 milligrams of sodium. How much does it actually have? 710. That's how much salt they put in. They know it preserves, it prolongs the shelf life of the can. It makes it taste better. It makes you thirsty, so maybe you'll drink some of their soft drinks. All the way around, processed foods are real saboteurs when it comes to sodium, if you're watching it. Here's somebody's macaroni and cheese. It's got 250 calories. It should have no more than 250 milligrams of sodium. How much does it really have? Calories, 470. So it's already in the processed food, so you should be wary of it. And restaurant food is the most notorious of all. Speaking of salty foods, when you walk into the supermarket, this display may call your name. It may know your first name and ask you to come on over and have a look at the latest wares. This is not food. If you're avoiding salt, this is something you really want to avoid. This is not food, this is edible food-like substances in brightly colored packages and boxes. As Michael Pollan tells us, when you see this and you get tempted, you pull out your 3-word magic wand, point it at the display and say, that's not food. And then you walk down the soap aisle so you don't have to look at the stuff. Okay, you want food as grown, like it was growing in the field. You eat potatoes, not potato chips. Corn, not corn chips. So what should salt fans do like me? Entertain your tongue with non-salty flavorings. Citrus is very helpful here. The taste buds for salt are right next to the taste buds for sour that the lemon juice stimulates. So squeezing lemon juice or lime juice on your veggies is a good way to use less salt while still entertaining your taste buds. There's all these wonderful flavored vinegars, raspberry vinegars, fig vinegars, balsamic vinegars. Use them, they're wonderful. And you can make your own salt substitutes. Be brave, go on to Google and type in homemade salt substitutes. And you'll get recipes that you can make up in your little grinder in about 30 seconds. All sorts of wonderful spices that are really very entertaining. And you make up a big bunch of it and you can coast on it for weeks and weeks. So lots of things to put on your veggies. I'm a big fan of Benson's Gourmet Table Tasty. I've got no connection with their company, but it tastes salty, but it isn't. It's nutritional yeast with a bunch of dried herbs. It tastes salty, but it's not. It's really handy stuff, especially for my patients with high blood pressure. Pardon me?
Can you go back one slide?
Would I go back one slide?
Thank you. We can take a picture.
These are just two that I pulled off the internet. Take pictures of your life, but if you do a search on homemade salt substitute, your screen will fill up with recipes here. But be brave. Get out of the processed food rut here. And tamari and brags are salty. One way to use them is to put them in a spray bottle like you mist houseplants with, and cut it 50-50 with water. And a couple of spritzes on your salad or your veggies goes a long way, without very much actual sodium involved. So there's lots of ways to reduce your sodium intake. Everybody likes it, most people do. And it's not evil, but you can't eat salt in unlimited amounts. It will bite you in either blood pressure consequences or autoimmune issues. So, add a pinch as a table. Don't cook with the stuff. And the little sprinkles go along like an eighth per meal. By the way, if you're a sea salt fan, because you think you're getting iodine and helping your thyroid, actually you're not. Sea salt does not contain iodine. Surprise, surprise. Why not? Another bad memory from high school chemistry, but here's the periodic table of elements. And here are the halogens. We all remember that fluoride, chloride, bromine, iodine, and astatine are all cousins to each other. And they all share a quality. And you're aware of the quality when you go swimming in the swimming pool. What do you smell coming off the surface? The chlorine, because it's volatile. It evaporates. All the halogens are volatile. They all evaporate. Well, right below chlorine and bromine is iodine. It's a halogen. It evaporates too. How do you make sea salt? You take big vats of seawater and put them out in the hot sun until the hot sun evaporates the water off and leaves the sodium chloride crystallized behind. Well, guess what else evaporates in the hot sun? The iodine evaporates. And as a result, you don't rely on it for iodine. There are, however, there's iodine sea salt where they put the iodine back in. And so if you are using sea salt and think that that's your iodine source for your thyroid, I suggest you either use sea vegetables or find another iodine source. When it comes to added salt, many form, less is more. Okay. So now to sugars and oils. And we're going to talk a little bit about what these substances really are and all of that. But behind the chemistry of oils and all of that, there's another weightier subtext. And that has to do with the fact that none of us can deny that within the space of my medical practice, in the 45 years I've been a physician, a tsunami of obesity has swept through our population. It's just stunning. And you see, and this, I'm not fat shaming or anything like that, just speaking as a physician, you see the obese people in all walks of life, certainly in the stores and in the hospitals. I had surgery a couple of years ago. The surgeon was obese, the nurses were obese, the airline pilot on the flight who was obese. And the issue, and I'll talk about the medical side of it, but what concerned me even more is how much we've accepted it. And well, it's just who we are now. And the obese people, God love them, they're in the sitcoms and the movies and the TV commercials, and well, that's just, Americans, we're fat now, and ha ha ha, aren't we jolly? And there's an attitude that goes where, yeah, doc, I know I'm carrying too much fat, it's okay. But every physician knows in their heart it's not okay. What's in that big belly? The subcutaneous fat produces estrogens. It's the largest estrogen secreting tissue in the body. If you are someone with a breast cancer or a prostate cancer or high blood pressure, you do not want 30 pounds of estrogen secreting tissue slapped on the front of your abdomen, pumping estrogens into your system every day. This is just a subcutaneous fat. Inside the abdomen is another kind of fat that surrounds the intestines, the intra-abdominal fat, different metabolic cap. This stuff puts out some nasty molecules that set off inflammation throughout the body, inflammatory cytokines. And they are involved with inflammatory reactions of all types that you can pick your favorite out of the laundry list here. The point is that inflammation obesity is a state of inflammation. It should not be accepted, it should be abolished. Abdominal fat is like having an alien being in your body, and it's not your friend. So the question is, how did this tsunami of obesity happen, and why did it happen? And this is where the fingers and the accusations start flying. Oh, it's the carbs, it's the fats, and go back and forth. Fats are bad, they're bad. Fats are good, eat all you want. Carbs are bad, they make you fat. Carbs are good, no, they make you lean. Nuts are bad, nuts are good. Meat is good, meat is bad. Dairies make you fat, dairy makes you lean. This is what we're hearing all day out in the stratosphere, the static sphere. How do you make sense of all this? In this next 40 minutes, I'm going to try and make some sense out of this. I want to end the war between carbs and fats once and for all, to clear this up in everyone's mind. We are always burning a combination of carbohydrates and fats. Sugars and fats are the fuel that we're all burning right now. Sugars are basically rings of carbon atoms. Fats are long chains of carbon atoms. That's a first difference. We're burning both kinds right now as we sit here. The sugars, these little rings of carbon atoms, are made by green plants all over the planet, very poetically, from the air, from the rain, from the sun. How lovely. From the air, they take 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, strip off the oxygen so we can breathe it, and they take those 6 atoms of carbon and they put them in this little ring. And what do? Look what's tacked on to these 6 carbon atoms here. HOH, 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 HOH. HOH, does that ring a bell? Does that sound familiar? It should, of course. That's the formula for water. So what the green plant has done is taken the 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, put them in a ring, stripped off the oxygen, and then taken 6 molecules of water, and for a split second, separates the molecule apart of water into an H and an OH and sticks it on the carbon atoms. And sticks one here and here and here and here. To add water to something is to hydrate it, is it not? So if you are hydrating a carbon compound, you create altogether, a carbohydrate. That's what the word means, is hydrated with carbon atoms. You know, carbs. You don't want to eat those bad carbs. I hate that term, carbs. They're carbohydrates. Now you know why they have that name. And they are a clean burning fuel. You eat sugars in their natural form. They go into your cells, especially your muscle, your liver, the energy structures there, the mitochondria take these rings, they break the ring apart, get the energy that's been stored in there from the sun, and they harvest that in the form of ATP molecules. And the waste products that come out are very clean. Carbon dioxide that you breathe out in your lungs, and water that you excrete in your kidneys. So sugars, carbohydrates are clean burning fuels, and they yield lots of energy. Now the plants make these from the sun, these sugars, but the potato plant wants to store these sugars to make it through the winter. And the corn plant wants to wrap some sugars around the new seedlings so they'll have a little energy to get up to the surface and start making their own sugars. So how do the plants store the sugars that they make from the sun and the rain and the water and the air? Well, they take these sugar molecules and they string them together in long chains. Sugar. These long chains of sugar molecules are called starch. And that's what the potato has stored down in here. And when we eat the potato, we have enzymes in our saliva that start breaking the bonds between these sugars, and we have more of them down our pancreas and our intestines. And we break these sugar molecules into separate units, and we bring them into our cells and harvest the energy, breathe out the carbon dioxide and water. Now we can store some of these sugars in cells. You eat the apple, you eat the potato, and these sugar molecules get into your muscles and your liver, and your muscles will string them together too. But unlike the potato plant making starch, our storage form is called glycogen, and it's a bunch of sugar molecules all linked together. And then when we need those sugar molecules, we break down. The pancreas makes a little molecule called glucagon that breaks these bonds apart and frees them to go out back into the bloodstream again. In our muscles, we have about a 24 to 36 hour supply of glycogen. So we do muscular activity, we draw down on our glycogen stores, and then we eat some fruits or vegetables, some carbohydrates, and we build the glycogen stores back up in our muscles. That's really important. It's quite analogous to one of these new hybrid cars. If you're just driving around town, you're running on your battery. And this is like the quick burning stored carbohydrates, the glycogen in our muscles, we use it, but we draw down on it. And then we'll eat some more sugars and build the glycogen right back up again. Like when you're driving your car, you're coming to a stoplight as you're slowing down, the flywheel and the brakes are harvesting that kinetic energy to build the battery back up. So we do the same thing in our muscles. We eat sugars and build the glycogen up. When we do exercise, draw down on it. We eat some more sugars, build them back up again. And it's a very, very efficient, lovely mechanism. We also have a reservoir of fats under our skin and our abdomen, as I showed you. And this is what keeps our body temperature up, basically. It helps us with chemical reactions. So we're always burning, we'll talk more about this in a minute, but we're always burning carbohydrates in our muscles and fats under our skin and in our abdomen. Carbohydrates are not evil, no matter what the paleo folks are shouting in our ears. It's ridiculous. Carbohydrates are in whole foods, not Oreo cookies, in whole foods, bring in with them mostly water and a bounty of clean burning energy, vitamins, minerals, cofactors. These are carbs, but these are the carbs you want to eat. They compose the fiber that lets us digest our food and which our colon bacteria turn into fatty acids that nourish our colon wall. The carbohydrates contain sugars that our cells use to throw back and forth to signal each other. Our body makes things out of these sugars in the fruits and vegetables. The mucus in your nose and your intestinal tract, those are mucopolysaccharides. They are sugars. God bless carbs, carbohydrates in this whole plant forms. Do not run away, and you should think it's ridiculous when someone tells you, don't eat carbs, don't eat those beans and fruit, they got carbs, they'll make you fat. They will not. They will not turn into fat, they cannot turn into fat. If you've done physical activity, the carbohydrates in the fruits and vegetables will go into your glycogen stores and replete the glycogen stores. And once those glycogen stores are full in your muscle and your liver, and you eat more rice or more potatoes by themselves, your body will not turn that into fat. That's called de novo lipogenesis. Way too difficult for the body to do. You're just basically going to burn the carbohydrate energy off as heat. And you're going to have potatoes and rice for dinner, and you're going to go to bed, and you're going to stick your foot out from under the covers, and you're going to throw the cover off, and you're going to radiate that heat off to the air. But you're not going to be turning it into fat. I'll refer you to the article, American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, 2004. De novo lipogenesis is the road less traveled. Only you feed someone tons of carbohydrates, about 3% of it turns into fat. The majority of it, once the glycogen stores are full, gets burned off as heat. They will not turn into fat. So if that is the case, what causes obesity? The fats, we're talking mostly about saturated fats, where all the carbon atoms in the chain are fully occupied by hydrogen atoms. Unsaturated fats and vegetable oils have this little kink in them, they're a little kinky. Saturated fats will stack up like cordwood, and that's why they're solid at room temperature. Where the unsaturated fats won't stack up, and that's why they are liquid at room temperature, so they are oils. Okay. And all high-fat foods have both saturated and unsaturated fats. They're obviously found in meats, nuts, seeds, oils, some fruits, dairy, and fast foods. Fats are not evil either. Carbs are not evil. Fats are not evil. Absolutely not. We need them. Our skin oils are made of fats. Our hormones are made of fats. Our brains are wrapped in fats. And because they are such a concentrated energy source, 9 grams of 9 calories in every gram, it keeps us, if you eat some nuts or avocados, it keeps you from having to eat fruit all day. It's an efficient way to run your body that frees you up from having to be a constant forager, eating only fresh fruits and vegetables. And a few pounds of fat reserve is good for hormone balance, etc. We each need about 30 or 45 grams of fat a day. A penny weighs 3 grams. So it's about 10 to 15 pennies weight of fat. Now, don't drive yourself nuts over what I'm going to say. All whole foods have some fat and some carbohydrate. You can't make a grain of rice without rice starch and a drop of rice oil. Even apples have apple sugar and a little apple oil. All whole foods have a little fat, low carbohydrate. But there's some, like nuts and seeds, that are obviously high in fat, avocados, etc. Okay. They say you need about 30 to 45 grams of fat a day. If it was all in avocados, it would be about 1.5 avocados a day. If it was in walnuts, it would be a half a cup of avocados. This is about how much fat you need in a day here. And as I mentioned, muscle activity is done by the sugars we store in our muscles. Fats keep the background energy up and metabolic reactions. So this leads us to an important concept called oxidative priority before I get into the oil ramp here. And for this, I must give a big shout out and a vote of acknowledgement to my friend and colleague Ray Cronise, who's a former NASA scientist, who made very clear this concept of oxidative priority. Here you see him with Penn Jillette from the Las Vegas Magic team who Ray helped lose over 100 pounds. Understanding this concept. Oxidative priority. It's easier for the body to burn sugars to blow apart those glucose rings in the mitochondria than to metabolize these long-chain fatty acids. Okay, that's the priority. And I also have to commend Ray's work with Juliana Heaver, the wonderful plant-based dietitian who's here. They cooperated on a book on plant-based nutrition for the complete idiot, highly recommended, and you can get lots more detail on their excellent book. Now, when you're up and moving, you're burning about 80% of your energy is coming from the sugar in your muscles. While you go to sleep, your muscle activity stops, but you got to keep your body temperature up. So about half your energy comes from fats while you're sleeping. Okay. The problem with burning fats is they're dirty fuels, where sugars just turn into carbon dioxide and water. Fats leave a residue. They leave an acid residue, acetoacetic acid, beta-hydroxybutyric acid, acetone, these ketonic acids, and they're an acid load, and they are a stress on the body. You can store unlimited amounts of fats, unlike carbohydrates that you burn out. And if you come to my talk on thriving on a plant-based diet, I'll talk to you about more problems with this. So, back to oxidative priority. Because it's easier to burn sugars than fats, if you eat sugars and fats at the same time, and they're both in your blood, your body's going to burn the sugar, and you'll store the fats for later, for the coming famine. So this is the key concept. If at the same time, you're going to burn the sugar, you're going to store the fats. So look at what Americans are eating. If fat and sugar combo is what sticks to you, look at what we're eating. Look at all the fat and the meat and the cheese and the egg yolk and the mayonnaise and the butter fat and the milkshake and the vegetable oil and the fries, and all the sugar in the white flour bun and the sugar and the ketchup, the sugar and the ice cream. Fat and sugar, fat and sugar. Ice cream is fat and sugar. Couldn't ask for a better weight gain food. Chicken and fries here. You're going to burn the sugar in the starchy fries. You're going to store the fat in the chicken fat and the vegetable oil. Want to be a fat vegan? Put oil on your pasta. And you're going to burn the sugar in the pasta. You're going to store the fat in the oil. Classic American weight gain breakfast. You're going to burn the sugar in the toast. You're going to store the fat in the egg yolk and the sausage. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You're going to burn the sugar in the bun, in the bread and the jelly. You're going to store the fat in the nut butter. Steak and potatoes. Burn the sugar in the starch and potato and store the fat. Pizza. Great weight gain food. You're going to burn the sugar in the starchy crust. You're going to store the fat in the cheese and the sausage. Fat and sugar is what sticks to you. No wonder the tsunami of obesity is going through us. We're eating fat and sugar all day. It's the national sport. And so doctor, I've been vegan for 5 years. Why am I still carrying all this weight? Because you're somewhere along the line, you're eating fat and sugar. You're putting earth balance margarine on your baked potato. You're thinking olive oil is good for you, so you're putting oil on your pasta. You're eating almond butter sandwiches on whole wheat bread. You are eating fat and sugar, and it's keeping you stuck. Keeping her stuck. Keeping her stuck, that's for sure. Okay. So what do? I can't eat can't eat baked potatoes. Sure you can. But don't put something fatty and oily on it. Put salsa on it. Put something non-fatty on your baked potato instead of vegan margarine. Well, I mean, I can't have avocados, can I? Sure you can, but put it on your salad. You can make a tahini dressing, pour it on your broccoli, not on the rice or the potatoes. And because it takes about 4 hours for sugars to clear out of the bloodstream, if you have baked potato at noon, it takes about 4 hours for the insulin to go up and down and all that stuff to clear the sugar out of your bloodstream. So you have your potatoes and rice at noon, have your avocado and walnut dressing at 5, and there the twain shall meet, and you'll burn through this pretty quickly, or you'll eliminate it in the stool. So this is a key to lose weight. This is only for people trying to lose weight. If you are already in an ideal body weight, or if you are a skinny vegan already, do not pay attention to this. This is the key to why overweight vegans can't lose the weight, because they're eating this, and this is their strategy for them. But if you're already in ideal body weight, enjoy the tahini dressing with your baked potato. It really doesn't matter a whole lot. So now let's get to the heart of the talk. So now what about the oils? Okay. Good or bad? You're going to get some people here telling you how good oils are. This is not a political attack on them. Strictly speaking from the health concerned physician's point of view. Olive oil is liquid fat in the bottle. So that is the difference. When your friends ask you, well, what's the difference? Man, are you against fats? No, fats are essential. You need fats, but get them out of whole foods. Get them out of olives and avocados and walnuts and flax seeds, not out of a freaking glass bottle. And there's a fundamental difference. What's the difference? When you eat an olive, when you eat a piece of coconut, when you eat a piece of walnut, there are micro droplets of walnut oil, olive oil, coconut oil, but they are firmly attached to the fiber of the coconut, of the walnut, of the avocado. You eat it. It takes hours for your digestive enzymes to penetrate into that piece of walnut, for the lipase enzymes to start emulsifying the fat, for your transport mechanism to absorb it into your bloodstream. And as a result, after you eat that piece of coconut or a couple of walnuts, the amount of fat in your blood rises very slowly, very gently, and leaves the bloodstream very quickly. The liver removes it. Doesn't have much of a pharmaceutical effect. But you take that coconut, you take that olive, and you crush the fat out, and you pour liquid fat on your food. That stuff leaps into your bloodstream, coats the red blood cells. They start, this little envelope of fat makes them sticky. Your blood cells get stickier in there, so your blood gets more viscous, your blood gets thicker. Starts injuring the walls of the arteries themselves. The endothelial lining of the arteries that Dr. Esselstyn talks about are precious, precious membranes. You want to take care of them. These vegetable oils hurt them. And Dr. Vogel made it very clear, when folks consume vegetable oils, the artery walls for hours are stunned. Their lovely elasticity disappears, the artery walls have been injured. Olive, soybean, palm oils have similar intake, have a similar acute detrimental effect over endothelial function in healthy young subjects. We have to stop thinking this is some magical elixir to pour on this Mediterranean diet olive oil onto your food. It does not help your arteries. Now, if the computer will let me, I'm going to show you an illustration. Well, it's an actual photomicrograph, a film, photovideograph, of the blood vessels in the cheek pouch of a live hamster who was not harmed during this demonstration. You're going to see red blood cells flowing through the little arteries, dropping off oxygen. And then they had a little stomach tube going down into the hamster stomach, and they gave the stomach some cream, which is 90% saturated fat. You'll see the effect of saturated fat as it flows into the bloodstream. And coconut oil is 85% saturated fat. So here is the blood flowing through. And these are all red blood cells dropping off oxygen to the heart, brain, kidney, vital tissues, to 25 miles an hour. That's how fast your blood should be flowing after a meal. This is how it should be flowing after the food we eat here. But now they give the hamster the cream through the tube, coats the red blood cells. You see them sticking there. This is actual real time. This is sludging in the capillary beds. You see how slow it's moving. This is not a good thing. By the time the red cells get down here, there's no oxygen left. And the heart and the brain and the kidney cells will wind up with tissue hypoxia. Look how long it takes for the fat to leave the blood and for the viscosity to resume normal values. 10 hours after you eat all this fat. And the coconut oil off the spoon does wonderful things for you. Why in the world would you want to do this to yourself? Again, if the blood's moving this way, all the slow-moving blood has the oxygen sucked out of it, so by the time it gets up here, these heart cells, brain cells, liver cells have no oxygen left, and they wind up hypoxic and short of oxygen. Pouring olive oil on food does not suddenly make them heart healthy. This is what I want to get across here. When that ridiculous Mediterranean diet study was published, the lead sentence in the New York Times was, pour on the olive oil. When I saw that, I said, no, don't pour on the olive oil. You are not making this salad more heart healthy by pouring liquid fat all over it. You are hurting your arteries by doing that. And if carbohydrates are going to be consumed with the meal, you're going to make yourself more obese by doing this. Now, as I finish my anti-oil screed here, I want to acknowledge that what I'm really ranting against is what I just said, is pouring olive oil on your food. Oh, heart healthy, I'm doing something wonderful for myself. And you go to the Italian restaurants and you want to order sauteed vegetables, and they come out from the kitchen dripping with oil, and they think they're doing something good for you back there. They're not. Now, this is what you don't want to do, and this is my main message here. Now, for the chefs in the audience, we all know that literally 2 drops of sesame oil is a lovely flavor, and it gives this lovely sesame burnt flavor to your stir-fried veggies and all this stuff. I don't have an objection to that. And if someone's making a salad dressing, a teaspoon of ground flaxseed oil, if you're going to be using oil, a teaspoon of an omega-3 oil. If it's going to be done on that level, if for flavoring a little bit of texture in the dressing, I don't have a problem with that. And I thought you don't want to use any oil at all. I'm talking about the industrial application of oils, as Americans now do here. And this is the problem, because she put olive oil on her salad. Oh, it's a heart-healthy meal now, and it uses this rationale for shoveling in all this evil stuff. This is my complaint about the oil, not the 2 drops of sesame oil in the salad dressing. Pouring oil on your food is pouring oil on your food. Stop kidding yourself that it's healthy. So, what do you stir-fry your veggies in? And what do you use for salad dressings? You can stir-fry your vegetables in anything that's wet. Water will work, vegetable broth you can buy, a couple of tablespoons of last night's vegetable soup. You dice up an onion, it gets all wet and sloppy, use that. Anything will wet. You don't have to saute your vegetables in oil, and when you stop doing it, you don't want to eat them anymore when they come out sauteed in oil. Salad dressings, we make it 3 times a day at True North. You take some vegetables from the salad, some carrots and celery and broccoli and onions, throw them in the blender with a cup of water, a couple of walnuts, a piece of an orange, hit the button, salad dressing. And pour it on your salad. You don't need olive oil to do it. All these lovely flavored vinegars, lots of things. Okay. And finally, am I way over time here? Okay. I'll run through the sugar thing. I've got total 3. Okay, nothing doing okay. Okay, so last one, the carbs. These are high carbohydrate foods. Do not run away from these, okay? They are good for you. I'm not talking about Oreo cookies and chocolate cake, okay? People say, oh, the carbs make you fat. These will hurt you. I agree. These will sustain you and nourish you. Don't take out that big broad brush and, oh, carbs are bad. These refined carbohydrates are bad. These that nature made are good. We take these high carbohydrate foods like sugar cane and sugar beets, and we extract the sugar out of them. What have we done? We turn whole foods into white powders. Humans get in trouble when we turn whole plant foods into white powders. Well, we do it with flour too, and when we eat these foods that the sugars have been isolated in, they leap into the blood. Our blood gets sugary for hours. It sticks to all the tissues. Our proteins become glycosylated, and that ages them. These are protein fibers that have sugar molecules leaking across them. This ages us. Your blood gets glycosylated, your skin, your blood vessels, lens of the eye, and your own body heat cooks the protein. It's called the Maillard reaction. It's what turns bread brown. Well, it happens in your tissues. And when you eat sugary foods, they all get sticky with sugar, and your body heat turns the protein strands into these bastardized, cooked molecules called advanced glycation end products. Don't worry about the name, remember the initials, the AEG. And so you run the Maillard reaction with eat lots of sugars in your skin, and it ages your skin. Glycosylate the proteins in your eye, you wind up with cataracts. Glycosylate the proteins inside your blood vessels, you wind up with dementia in your brain. Eating sugar as a food ages you. If you want proof of it, now we're talking about eating sugar as a food. Eating sugar as a food, eating sugar as a food, eating sugar as a food. This is eating sugar as a food. It was never meant to be as a food. These are the carbs that will hurt you. Okay? Stunning amounts in soft drinks. 8 ounce drink, 5 grams of sugar, 5.5 teaspoons, 27 grams. White flour is sugar. So, carbs do not turn into fat, but if you eat the carbohydrates with the fats, the carbohydrates will promote the storage of the fats eaten with the starches and the sugars. So they don't turn into fats, but they will make you store the fats eaten with the carbohydrate. Say carbs make you fat. No, the sugars in the donut made you store the egg yolk and the vegetable oil in the donut. That's how the carbs make you fat, but it's not that the sugars turn into fats. They will make you store fats eaten. And if you are already obese and keeping your blood full of sugars from the sugary food you're eating, there's no reason your body's going to start burning off your fat stores. So as a result, eating sugar will keep you from burning off your own stored fats. So I hope this starts to clear up the confusion. No, carbohydrates will not turn into fats, but they'll make you store fats eaten at the same time, and they will keep you from burning your own stored fats if you're keeping your blood full of sugar, sugar, sugar all the time. Everybody clear on that? Mm-hmm. It's the fat-sugar combo. So meat has lots of fat, but we usually eat it with sugar in the bun and the ketchup and the soft drinks. And that's where no, this won't make you fat per se, but you eat it together and they sure will. And turkeys and chickens are raised to be so fat that you see the fat when it floats up to the top when you make chicken soup. So you folks eating chicken and think it's lean meat somehow, and still, gee, why aren't I losing weight? Because it's full of fat and you're eating it with rice, potatoes, and bread. Okay. So do you avoid starches or sugars or avoid fats? No, you need them both. But eat them in their whole forms. That's my weight loss tip. So do you avoid carbs? No. They're abundant, we need them, they're healthy. We are carbohydrate-burning organisms, no matter what the paleo folks tell you. There's nothing to fear from carbohydrate-rich foods when they're eaten in their whole form, not in the not out of the package Oreo cookies. Folks lose weight when they go on the paleo diet. They sure do. And the paleo folks say, don't eat those carbs, those grains and potatoes, and make you fat, which they don't. But they say some things I agree with. They say no caveman ever milked a dairy cow, so they're on dairy products. They're down on dairy products. Yay, paleo, they're right. They say no caveman ever squeezed the oil out of olives and poured it on its salad, and so they're down on refined oils. They're right. They say no caveman ever ground wheat into flour and made donuts and coffee cake, so they're down on flour products. Yay, paleo, they're right. And if you stop eating dairy, oil, and flour products, you're going to lose weight. And yep, I agree with them. It's the meat that we have our issue with. And if you want to know more about this, come to my talk today at 4 o'clock here on Friday on a plant-based diet, and we will go into the paleo issue in depth. So last couple things, restaurant food. Restaurant food is ethnic flavored salt, sugar, and fat. When my friends ask me, what do you want for dinner? Where do you want to go? Well, I haven't had Italian flavored salt, sugar, and fat in a while. Chinese salt, sugar, and fat's really nice. Ooh, East Indian salt, sugar, and fat. Ooh, that's good. Ooh, you know Thai salt, sugar, and fat? Dynamite. It's all salt, sugar, and fat. And it's usually served with syrup, flesh, and overcooked vegetables. Less is more. Before I go to eat, I eat. I have a salad, I have a soup, last night's dinner. My mother said, you'll kill your appetite. That's exactly what I want to do. You're going out to eat with your friends just because they're stuffing their face with unhealthy dead animals. You don't have to do that. And so eat before you go so you can enjoy the salad and the soup and some food for dessert and get the hell out of there before the dessert train. So, the take home of all this. Don't eat sugar as a food, don't see oil as a health food, okay? A half a teaspoon of maple syrup in your tea is not a problem, eating sugar as a food is. 2 drops of sesame seed oil in a recipe is not a problem, pouring oil on your food is. Find vegan alternatives. Again, you can a little spray at the table of some olive oil just for the flavor is acceptable as far as I'm concerned. And the take home of all this, they're not health foods. These are taste treats, and they are too easy to use too much of. And none is probably safest, so consider an SOS-free eating style without added salt, sugar, and oil. So if you're eating, now if you are a healthy person eating a whole food, plant-strong diet, a pinch of salt at the table, a few drops of sweetener, or a spray of oil is probably benign. But the dose makes the poison, as they say, and your body's never not looking. So when it comes to all these, less is more. I'll invite you to go to my website, drklaper.com. I've got this and all sorts of videos on there. Sign up for my mailing list, and I do consultations now through my website, and I'll be glad to work with you through Skype or FaceTime. That's basically what I wanted to mention here about this important subject. So, do everybody, stop using the carbs. They're whole foods, okay? Don't eat sugar as a food. Hold everything else to a minimum, and don't let eating become an anxiety-filled event. We have time for some questions. We have about 10 more minutes, so anyone want to raise their hand, and we'll get a microphone to you. She's there.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Marco, and I have a quick question. I've been vegan for 5 years already, and one of the challenges that I have as an athlete sometimes find that ideal fat or, ratio. I mean, I do stick to what you say, try to keep them separate, sugars from oils from night and proteins. Sometimes during the day you want to have just a little bit to sustain you. What would you say is adequate?
Yeah, once you call yourself an athlete, that's your ticket of admission to a special club. And we all used to be athletes. We used to spend our days 1 million years ago on the African veld there, foraging for plants and climbing trees and running away from leopards, and we were physically active creatures. And we probably did eat more fats. And if you are a runner, you go out and run 10K. Then you deserve an extra handful of walnuts, you deserve an extra half an avocado, an extra extra helping of rice and beans, and 2 scoops of lentil stews, or an extra burrito. And eat, my child, eat. You've earned it. And your body, hunger is there for a reason. I don't know, there's no marker points given in this life. You're a lean, healthy, active, eating guy, man. And your body says, I want another burrito, go have one, absolutely. And you can emphasize the fats a bit more as far as the nuts and the avocados.
You did not mention avocado oil, but you implied that all oils are.
All oils, yes.
So avocado oil is no better than.
Not that I see. Vegetable oils are vegetable oils, and they leap into your bloodstream, and they're not gentle with the artery walls.
What is the impact of sugar on nerves. You haven't mentioned that.
Right. Well, there's sugar again. There's sugars and there's sugars. As long as we're talking about eating an apple, I don't think there's any adverse effects, and people should not be afraid of fruits in their whole natural form. If you're flooding your tissues with sugar, if you're eating refined sugars out of packages and boxes and cakes and cookies and donuts and all of that, and white bread and flour products, that is not gentle with your nerves. It's going to make peripheral neuropathy worse. And Dr. Milton Crane at the Weimar Institute was able to reverse even nasty diabetic neuropathy with a low-sugar, low-fat diet and vitamin B12. So sugars are not friendly to the nerves, but don't run away from an apple either. Yes.
Hi, do you distinguish between the salts, like Himalayan salt and the black salt and the gray salt? Is there a difference in their value at all, or?
Certainly not in their salt content and their sodium content. They're the same. They imagine from their trace mineral content, there's going to be variation. But check the label to make sure that they've got what you're looking for, and that they don't have what you're not looking for. Some of the salt products are scooped up clay from the Utah desert, and they've got radioactive elements. They got thorium and cesium and uranium in them. I was very dismayed when I read the label. So have a good look at the label. Yes.
Yes, thank you so much. It's brilliant. We have a stage 4 metastatic cancer battle that we're in, and our oncologist is now on board with the plant-based, but one doctor insists for a ketogenic diet for cancer, worried about how the sugar and the cancer, etc. Can you address that, please?
Yes, come to my talk at 4 o'clock. There's a complex subject, and there's no question, when the body's in a state of ketosis, it releases molecules called sirtuins that turn off cancer growth. And there's something to it. There's some solid science behind this. And if I had stage 4 metastatic cancer, there is no question that I might want to stay in ketosis for weeks and weeks and weeks. I may, and the ketogenic diet would have some appeal. But that's a rare situation, and he doesn't know that this is really going to, the oncologist doesn't really know as far as what effect this is going to have. He hasn't followed people for 20 years on this diet to know who lives and who doesn't. This is all theoretical stuff. And as I will mention, there's a lot of downsides to staying in ketosis month after month after month after month. So if you're a regular person, come to my 4 o'clock lecture. If you're someone with stage 4 metastatic cancer, you might want to stay in it for a couple of months. But boy, I give myself a break from that every so often. That's a stress on the kidney and the liver and the immune system. It's not a natural state. Okay.
Thank you. Can you control cholesterol with diet?
Can you control cholesterol with diet? Absolutely, you can control cholesterol with diet. And I'm going to be talking about that this afternoon. I've got vegans with cholesterol well over 200. This is not a disease. I do not put them on statins. You trust their liver. Cholesterol is not an evil molecule. Your hormones are made of cholesterol. Your liver makes cholesterol for a reason. And if on a given time, given date, when a person had blood drawn, their cholesterol level was 210, fine. That's what their liver needed to keep in their blood, so their adrenals could get on with their steroid synthesis and their testicles could get on with their testosterone synthesis. It's not a disease. The question is not how high is your cholesterol. The question is how healthy are your arteries. Those plaques form as a result of repeated injury to the artery walls. Oxidized muscle protein, alcohol, cigarettes, stress hormones, sugars. These are the repeated injuries that make those plaques form. If you are a lean, healthy, happy vegan, flooding your system with lots of green and yellow vegetables every day, you're not going to be forming these plaques. I don't care if your cholesterol is 212 or it's not. It's not, the high cholesterol does not equal plaque formation. And if you're a healthy vegan, not to worry about it.
Hi, I just wondered what you thought about using coconut oil as your moisturizer.
Oh, I think these liquid oils are wonderful on the skin. Oh, that's the best use for them. I'm all for it. And you want to apply them within 5 minutes of getting out of the shower. When you're in the shower, your skin is fully hydrated. You want to lock that moisture in, not lose it to the air. So have your coconut oil in the bathroom, and as soon as your towel apply that coconut oil and lock that water into the skin, you'll get a lot more hydration from it. Yes?
Thank you. How do you feel about stevia as a sweetener in tea, coffee?
About pediatric what?
Stevia.
Stevia. We're using stevia. Oh, it's a lovely flavor. I've got no problem with stevia.
I recently had a dear friend die from giant cell arteritis. She ate much healthier than I ever did, and I was wondering, is it autoimmune disease?
Yes, ultimately there are autoimmune diseases that, gets around to leaky guts. Why, the body is not capricious. It doesn't decide when, I'm going to attack my temporal arteries now and do that. There's a reason these things happen, and it's usually because something that she was eating or drinking injured her gut wall. She's eating animal flesh, so she's eating somebody else's arteries and started making antibodies against it, and they wind up attacking her own. This is not an etiology unknown. The body doesn't do that. So a healthy plant-based diet would be the definitive therapy for that.
She passed, and they had her on prednisone and opioids.
Yes, and just to turn that off, she should have been on prednisone. That's initially. But there comes a point, you don't stay on it forever. And a plant-based diet will never get off the prednisone.
Alcohol turning into formless beer belly, or
Was it alcohol?
alcohol turning into straight sugar and beer belly?
Yes, right. I am not a big alcohol fan. I think it's a toxin to every organ in the body. In Harrison's textbook of internal medicine, you'll find alcohol toxicity syndromes for every tissue: alcoholic gastritis, alcoholic encephalopathy, alcoholic neuropathy, alcoholic hepatitis, alcoholic cardiomyopathy. It kills everything it touches. Alcohol is not a health food. Whether a glass of wine lowers your cholesterol, I don't care. What it does to your liver, to your cancer rate, to your brain, in my book, outweighs how many calories it has per gram or whatever. If you want resveratrol and antioxidants, then eat the grapes, drink the grapefruit juice. But I'm not a big fan of alcohol. Yes, it's metabolized quickly, so what? It hurts the liver on the way through it.
Hi, can you suggest some alternatives to ice cream, because it's very addictive?
Oh, alternatives to ice cream, you bet. Come to Juliana Heber's, she's got a good one on sauces and gravies and things. But basically nowadays, there's a wonderful thing. There's a device called a Yonana device. And it's a little grinder that you get some ripe bananas and freeze them, and you put them through the machine, and it comes out like this delicious banana custard. You can make it all these different flavors. And at the supermarkets these days, there's coconut ice cream and soy, and almond ice cream. They're all crap. They're all vegetable oil and sugar. No one's saying they're healthy, but compared to the dairy ice creams, they're much, much better. So try some of those, but go with the fruit flavored ones. They're better.
Sorbet better?
I'm sorry, sorbet? Yeah, in a pinch, yes, sorbet would be better. It's all just shit.
How about if you have stage 4 or somebody has stage 4 to do water fasting?
Going through stage 4 on a water fast? No, and there's almost no reason ever to do that. This is an extreme state of water fasting. That at True North, I worked for 8 years, and I supervised several thousand fasts there. And it's a remarkable initial juncture strategy to lower blood pressure, clear out diabetes, make migraine headaches go away, asthma gets better. It's a wonder, it clears out arteries. It's a wonderful thing to do for a week or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. But we watch them like a hawk, check vital signs twice a day, blood every week. And if they show any signs of distress, with nausea, rapid pulse, whatever, we end the fast there. These fast to extremes are really unnecessary and should never be attempted unless you're in a facility where people know what they are and looking at what they're doing.
My question is, for muscle building, when would be the best time to bulk up on the foods, both pre-workout and then post-workout, because the recovery comes in sleep, from a timeline of consumption to what would be most beneficial for both?
And there's a whole world of that, and thank heavens Robert Cheek is here, and I'm going to defer to Robert. The bodybuilders guys, they've got their own regimens on how to optimize the timing of protein, etc. and all that. But I'll tell you, these protein powders concern me. Protein is toxic to the kidneys. And these, especially young guys, they do a big workout there, oh, now I need my protein, and they whip up a fruit smoothie and put in 100 grams of pea protein or whey protein, and they bolt it down in 90 seconds. Man, they slam their glomeruli and their filters and their kidneys with all this protein. They're writing themselves a ticket to dialysis machine. This is not a gentle, normal, physiologic thing to do. I would really urge you don't do that. Have another hummus sandwich later, but don't use these protein powders like that. Yes?
You mentioned that if you're trying to lose weight, not to mix fat with starches, but what would you add, like hemp seeds or flax seeds or chia seeds to a fruit-based smoothie if you're trying to lose weight, or would you avoid that as well?
Again, if you're an obese person, first of all, and you're not hungry in the morning, you don't eat breakfast. The whole thing, breakfast, the most important meal of the day, is ridiculous. It's not. If you're not hungry, you're burning that nighttime fat mixture all night. Just because the sun came up, your body's perfectly happy to keep burning that nighttime fat mixture. If you're not hungry in the morning, don't eat. Just start your eating day at noon with a salad. If you're really hungry, have some oatmeal, have some fruit. Should you put some flax seeds on it? You might want to wait till the salad in the evening. Yes?
Cleveland Clinic has done research on TMAO. Did you study that at all? Could you comment on that?
Yes, right. Yes. If you're going to eat a meat-based diet, you're going to spawn bacteria that create this stuff called TMAO that really drives cholesterol into your artery walls and sets you up for plaque formation. That the paleo folks are going to find out the hard way. I'll talk about this at 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Hey, Dr. Klaper, you recommend that we eat at home as opposed to going out to eat, and I think everybody agrees with that. What do you do when you're on a cruise ship for 10 days and you have to eat out for the next 10 days?
You put your faith and your liver in the hands of the culinary staff here, and if you think there are things that need to be improved, then you tell Sandy in no uncertain terms, and be very clear. Ask and you shall receive. It's a learning experience. Yes?
Thank you for your time today. I really enjoyed the conversation. So I'm a huge fan of homemade wholemeal bread, and I put both sugar and oil in that bread.
Yes.
Is bread a real bad thing, whole grain bread?
She's asking about bread, and is bread fattening? In most people, unless they don't absorb it, the answer, much to my dismay, because I used to love bread, yes, bread is fat and sugar. It's stuff, yes. And people who eat a lot of bread, especially if they put butter or some fat on it, are going to stay stuck and put on weight. So what to do? I don't eat much bread anymore. Once a month I'll have a sandwich. But when we want a sandwich, we'll get a big leaf of romaine lettuce or collard and put a big glop of hummus on it and some carrot slices and cucumber sticks, and we'll roll it up and do a lettuce wrap. And we get the sandwich experience without the actual bread. And so that helps. When we, instead of pastas, we pour our spaghetti sauce over quinoa or farro or whole grain instead of the pastas. So I've really pretty much stopped eating flour products, and if you're trying to lose weight, I urge you to stop eating flour products. They just aren't helpful, and they're keeping you stuck.
Here's one.
Yeah, I want to go back to the cholesterol question. Do you get concerned about vegans that have high cholesterol if they know they have one of the ApoE4 alleles?
Am I concerned if they have high cholesterol with the ApoE4 allele? No, I'm not. Again, and I'm coming out with a video on this on my website, but it's what I call the tyranny of the numbers. The cardiologists have become fear-filled technicians. When they get that lipid panel, your cholesterol's 208, and your particle size, and the ratio, and they generate number after numbers, and what's really happening is their malpractice lawyers sitting on their shoulders screaming that if this patient has a stroke or heart attack with these numbers and you don't have them on a statin, your family's going to sue you for everything you got. And out comes the prescription pad, and out comes that prescription for the statins. This is fear-based medicine. I would get them all together in a room, the cardiologists, say, doctor, the question is not how high is this person's cholesterol. These numbers are derived from a population of Joe six-pack Americans, 50 pounds overweight, smoking cigarettes, eating cheeseburgers, never exercising. That's who these numbers are drawn from, and that's who these risk factors apply to. And if you keep eating cheeseburgers and most cigarettes, yes, you have such and such a risk ratio of having a heart attack or stroke. But the vegan folks who get off that trend, they're not doing that for themselves 3 times a day. They've got normal healthy weights. They're not smoking. They're taking a walk every day. And every one of their meals bathes their arteries in phytonutrients. They are healing their arteries with every meal. Get out from the fearly damn numbers and look at who's sitting in front of you. And if he's Joe Sixpack, 50 pounds overweight, eating cheeseburgers, smoking cigarettes, then give him hell about his lipid numbers and his statins, absolutely. But you got a lean, healthy vegan eating salad, soups, and greens and beans. And they got a cholesterol of 210. That is not disease. Go get a carotid artery scan, verify for yourself that they don't plaque in their arteries, do their inflammatory markers, do myeloperoxidase, do oxidized cholesterol. You'll see they're stone cold normal, and stop worrying this patient that they're going to have a heart attack or stroke. And they've stopped being biologists and become technicians. I'm telling you, embrace your physicianship again.
Dr. Klaper, I'm confused about something. You can clear it up for me. I have great arteries from a calcium heart scan and low blood pressure. And I like salt, and I put salt on things. Am I harming some other part of my body with being a salt addict?
Are you harming other parts of your body with the salt?
Yeah, because I have low blood pressure and very clean.
Low blood pressure.
And I have very clean arteries from a calcium heart scan.
Yeah. And you've certainly made it to your years at this point. It hasn't done you great harm. Assuming you don't have autoimmune disease, it's probably a tolerable amount of salt. But given what I said here, don't push it. The last thing you need is a stroke or some episode of arthritis from an autoimmune thing. Less is more. That's all. Yes.
Dr. Klaper, I notice with most of the meals that we have, the fruit follows the main courses. Whereas I would have thought that was not a good thing at all. As a person that eats a lot of fruit, we've been told that the fruit should come first.
Should fruit come first in the meal? I think it's a lovely thing to do. It's very easy to digest, and I'm sure there are cultures where the fruit is eaten first.
I'm just a bit concerned about eating it after the meal, as it is most commonly served.
Yeah, the gastric emptying time is depends what you ate. But within 30 minutes, the stomach is pretty empty. You want to put an apple down there or some grapes or whatever. The whole, there's, what's behind your question, I think, is the whole convoluted dogma from the natural hygiene folks from way back in the 1920s and 30s and 40s. Don't eat fruit after a meal because it ferments in your belly and it uses up your digestive enzymes and all of that stuff. And it turns out that none of that seems to be true. But that said, if there's a certain combination, if eating fruit right after a big starchy meal makes you all gassed and distressed, don't do that. And listen to what your own body dictates to you. And they say by age 40, you're either a fool or a physician. You either learn how your body works or you're missing out big one there. So at your age, I'm sure you've learned what works best for your body, and that's the field that you ought to be doing. Absolutely, but not everyone will have the same experience. Yes.
Hi.
Hey.
It's another question about low blood pressure.
Yes.
And I worry that it gets too low, and I've been told to worry about it. So I was like this other woman. I was taking salty things. What else can I do besides caffeine to get my blood pressure down?
If you are one of these people blessed with low blood pressure normally, physiologically, great. But if you start standing up and getting lightheaded, that's a sign of low blood pressure. There's not enough blood going up to your brain. You better do something about that. This is the person who is invited and really should be directed to, she does need some more salt in your diet, and you should be generous with the salt shaker or have the extra pretzel or pickle from time to time. No, it would be therapeutic for you.
We have 2 questions.
2, okay.
Thank you, Dr. Klaper. How do you feel about intermittent fasting?
Intermittent fasting, it's a wonderful thing to do. We eat too much, read too much, and too often. And she's talking about 2 versions of it, either not starting your eating day till noon, do all your eating within a 6-hour window, and by 6 or 7 evening be done with eating, and so you have an 18-hour fast every day. That does very good things for your body. Even better is to build up, unless you're an experienced faster, but build up to where you can do a 5-day water fast once a month. And start with just a 1-dayer, and then maybe 2 days, 3 days, till you build up 5 days of water fast once a month. Does wonderful things for your tissues and your immune system. Highly recommended. I'll have a video about that on my website soon. Yes?
Yes. My question is, I have low blood pressure, always have, but when I got a physical the last couple of times, I was told that I have a hypothyroid condition. Is there something, I mean, I don't exhibit the symptoms they tell me is associated with it, so I don't know.
Your TSH is elevated, is that what they're saying? Right. If it's just a little bit of an elevation, I wouldn't worry about it. And if you're not symptomatic as far as the other signs of hypothyroidism, then you're cold and retaining fluid and slow speech and all that stuff, I wouldn't worry about it, but make sure that you've got an iodine source in your diet. The vegan diet, if you're not eating fish, can be very short of iodine, and you need iodine to make your thyroid hormone. And I've seen cases of hypothyroidism in vegans, which really was an iodine deficiency. And so make sure you cover the bases on that. Either have some seaweed, some wakame or arame, or kelp flakes in your salad 3 times a week, or take a multivitamin that's got 150 micrograms of iodine in it, but don't neglect it. That's a very remediable cause of hypothyroidism. Yes?
You commented earlier about getting off statins. If you're already diagnosed with some partial blockages and you're following the plant-free diet, would you still suggest to get rid of the statins?
If you're already diagnosed with what?
Partial cholesterol blockages or plaque blockages in your arteries?
No, I would follow Dr. Esselstyn's program to the letter for 24 months, for 2 solid years. And I would get a good walking program, I would open up my arteries, your lipids will take care of themselves, and then you can make a good case to your doctor how about getting off these drugs.
One final question here. I'm finding that they're coming into my radar, a lot of vegans, or the certain vegans that come into my sphere that are having heart disease due to gut issues, IBS, and the inflammatory response to that, and they're having heart attacks. So in my research, I'm finding that there's certain foods that are not digested properly, and these are healthy foods, and they have food intolerances. They're creating the IgG response that is causing inflammation and ultimately arterial compromise. What is your take on that?
I'm not sure if I'm getting the question in that. Certain foods cause immunoglobulins to appear and that they're driving inflammation. And what foods would those be?
Plant-based.
I would, seeing the markedly lower incidence of vascular disease in vegans, it can't be a widespread problem. And if there's certain foods that are causing tremendous antibody response, the person shouldn't be eating them for all sorts of reasons. But we don't see that immunoglobulins are playing a major role in plaque formation that I'm aware of. But it might be I need to know more about the subject.
We still have some time. It's 12:38, okay. And yes, I have a little bit of osteopenia that was diagnosed about a year ago, and I was still, my doctor thought I was still okay on it, so he didn't put me on anything. So I went totally plant-based, vegan, didn't use soy, however, no oil, and ate tons of greens and greens and greens. I then had a follow-up on my bone scan, on my, what is it called, my bone density. In 1 year, went down 10%.
You bet, absolutely. All right. So you need to come to my lecture on healthy bones, and I will walk up one side and down the other of that, because that's a very important issue. I knew you were going to say that, and it's a very, very important question. Please circle my talk on healthy bones, but if you miss it, it's on my website, and go to my website and see Healthy Bone Seminar, and you'll see why that happened to you and what to do about it.
Doctor, 2 questions. Is CRP a better marker than cholesterol?
The whole issue, how high is your cholesterol? Again, it's a dumb marker. The real issues, and I'll show pictures of this on my 4 o'clock talk, these plaques are inflammatory lesions, and those artery walls are inflamed. So you want to look for a series of inflammatory markers. There are now the more sophisticated labs, Cleveland Heart Lab, Boston Heart, are doing a series of inflammatory markers. And they start with oxidized cholesterol, then prostaglandin 2s, and then they get into high-sensitive CRP, then they get into phospholipases and myeloperoxidase, which is really important as the white blood cells invade the plaques and make them unstable, more likely to rupture. The HSCRP, but very importantly, the myeloperoxidase and this phospholipase go up. And so these are the markers I'm interested in, not how high is your cholesterol. And so, yes, it's one of the markers, but go to the website of Cleveland Heart Lab and look at their inflammatory panel. Those are the markers that you want.
Is soy milk a no-no?
Soy milk is fine. Again, it's not a drinking beverage. And again, the meat and dairy folks put out this scare campaign, oh, don't eat soy, it's got phytonutrients. If you eat tofu, it's going to turn your son gay and you'll get man boobs and all. And it's really outrageous. But have all the milk and cheese you want, which are made from pregnant cows whose milk is brimming with estrogens, active mammalian estrogen. That you can have all you want of. But stay away from that soy. It's got phytoestrogens, which are actually protective against breast cancer. There's no problem with soy. No one's telling you to drink 2 quarts of soy milk a day. It's a novelty beverage to splash on your cereal or to put in your tea. And a little bit of that is not going to hurt anybody.
Hey, Dr. Klaper. So I've really enjoyed a vegan diet for the past couple of years, but obviously it's not had the impact that I want to on body weight. So I would like to find a source for just to tell me exactly, referring to the food combining, the fats and the sugars and the carbs, where is the best source to get that? Because everybody has good information, Dr. Essie and Dr. McDougall and the usual suspects, but obviously it's not being impactful for me. So where would I go to get a really stringent food combining guide of meal planning?
Right. Talk with Ray Cronice and Juliana Heavers. They're here on the cruise. They got a dynamite weight loss program.
Dr. Klaper, I have another statin question. I hate statins. I had an artificial heart valve put in, and my doctor said that because my LDL was higher, I had to take statins. My doctor promised, cardiologist said, if you get your statins down to 70, you can stop, if you get your LDL down to 70, you can stop statins. So I tried hard. I followed Dr. Esselstyn's very religiously. I was so proud of myself. I got down to 70. I expected my cardiologist to jump for joy and take me off statins. But she said, I'm sorry, but there's a new finding that statins have other benefits. Although you have succeeded in getting to 70, you cannot stop statins. What do you think of this?
I think you should find another cardiologist. But I have compassion for these folks. The cardiologist all day is faced with this never-ending river of overweight Joe six-pack and Sally six-pack, 50-pound overweights, eating their burgers and their pizza. Well, doc, you know how it is. And in their head, people will never change. It's not worth talking to them about diet. But take these statins, and this grim charade continues. And one reason I left clinical practice is I'm going to work with PCRM and going to the medical schools and working with the med students before they get their heads hardened by the surgeons and the cardiologists, that these diseases are not etiology unknown. It's what your patients are eating. And I have a slide in this last talk that I gave to doctors. It's time that Western medicine stop pretending that what our patients are eating has no effect on these diseases they're bringing to us. They're all dietary diseases. And your cowardice and your pretending that people aren't going to change. I don't know anything about it. Don't ask me about nutrition because I like my burgers and my pizza myself. This is really the underlying issue. This can't stand. This is going to be like the pulmonologist who's still smoking 2 packs a day. It just can't stand any longer. And because the wrongful death suits are coming. There's going to be angry widows talking to lawyers. My husband died on that operating table in the middle of a bypass, and nobody told us you could reverse this disease with a whole food plant-based diet. And we were going to turn to the doctor on the witness stand. When did you people know this? Oh, I've been in the studies since the 80s. Why didn't somebody tell us about this? And the wrongful death suit will be lodged. There's going to be consequences for their continuing to ignore this. And the public, they'll become laughing stocks. Again, it's going to be like the doctor's still saying, making a plea for at least 5 cigarettes a week are good for you. So, so we're at a time of transition here. That doctor, that cardiologist, only sings River of Joe Sixpence, and so that's all she knows. Find a plant-based cardiologist. There are some, called Dr. Bob Osfeld at Montefiore Hospital. He's got colleagues around. There's getting to be, oh boy, I just ran into one with 7 plant-based cardiologists. And Dr. Kim Williams, their entire practice at Rush Medical School. Talk about a sign of the time. Dr. Kim Williams is the president of the American Heart Association and is vegan himself. And his cardiologist, he's the head of cardiology at Rush Medical School in Chicago. He's got 15, 20 cardiologists on him. 11 have gone vegan. As Dr. Williams said, there's only 2 kinds of cardiologists. Vegan ones and those who haven't read the literature yet. And it's turning out, and we were joking, well, what are the cardiologists going to do? You know, they're all going to put themselves out of business. It's turning out that the income from the cardiology department is going down now. It's actually happening. And it's kind of a good thing for Dr. Williams, but the hell with it. This is not supposed to be a growth industry. Okay? This is whatever happens, happens. Let the economics sort themselves out. But it's starting out, in fact, you've got 11 plant-based cardiologists in a major medical school, and the generating of income from the procedures is going down is a great sign. So it's happening. Don't despair. Keep looking for plant-based cardiologists. The more we look, the more there will be.